1. I was 20 years old at the time, and I was working at a Chinese food place in the mall. I don't know if any of you have ever wondered, but all the restaurants at a mall's food court are connected by a big long hallway behind them that only mall employees are allowed access to. Due to only workers going through there, and for it being hidden, you can imagine that the place is pretty solitary. This is important because this is where the events took place. Now, on to the story. There was this cook in the restaurant who, for anonymity's sake, I'll refer to as Greg. Greg was Chinese and didn't speak Spanish, my native language, nor English, only Mandarin. He only understood certain words in Spanish like rice, noodles, chicken, and other food items that he cooked, so that when we yelled them into the kitchen, he knew what to bring out. Also, I don't know how old he was, but he was easily over 60. So Greg, despite the language barrier, was a very bubbly person. Ever since I started working there, I noticed how he always made silly noises when he came up front to deliver his food, and all the other girls would laugh. He generally seemed very sweet and friendly, and I never heard any of the girls complain about him at all. For all I could tell, he was just friendly with everyone, and harmless. With time, as I stopped being the new girl, Greg would become more comfortable around me too, and make beep-beep noises when he came to the front to deliver food, as his way of asking me to step out of the way for him. It was actually kinda hilariously cute, and all my other co-workers, like I said, found him pretty harmless, so I began to feel comfortable around him too. A couple of months into the job, I was already familiar with everyone in the staff, Greg included, so I would always wave hello or goodbye to him, and he'd give me a smile and wave back. I never thought anything weird of our interactions because they were the same with everyone else he interacted. Until one day, I was getting back to my shift after my break. I pushed through the employee door to enter the long hallway I mentioned earlier. You could hear noises from the other workers inside their respective restaurants, but no one was really outside in the hall. As I was walking towards the restaurant I worked at, I saw that Greg was just then getting out for his break. He immediately smiled and said my name in the thick accent he always said it with, and I smiled back at him. I didn't feel at all threatened because, like I've probably mentioned a million times by now, he had never given me reason to feel threatened. He's still smiling at me, standing in front of the entrance to my job, so I couldn't really just walk past him. Just as I was nearing him, he extends his arms, basically asking me for a hug. I'd seen him hug other girls before, so again, I thought nothing of it and went in for the hug. Call me naive. At first it was all fine and dandy, but my shift was about to start, so I had to go. He had been hugging me for a bit too long as well, so not only was I getting antsy, but also uncomfortable. I broke the hug and tried to push him back gently, signaling him I needed to go. And this is where I began to panic. You see, when I tried to push him away, he actually held me tighter and wouldn't let go. I was confused, so I tried to push against him again, this time a bit more obviously. But he held on even more, pressing me against him. This is when I realized my naivete caused me to make a huge mistake. I turned my head to glare at him, but the moment I did, he leaned down as if expecting me to look and try to kiss me. Okay, now I was really freaking out, because this was the first time someone tried to come at me so aggressively, and he didn't speak any of the languages I spoke, so I didn't know how to tell him to let me go other than with actions. And before you yell at me for not screaming, at the time I was so shocked that I didn't even think of it. I kind of shut down in that department, and instead tried to figure out a way to make him let go. All this time, as I'm thinking what the fuck to do, he's still trying to kiss me. keeping me in place no matter how much I struggled, and actively following my head with his lips to try to plant one on me. It didn't matter if we didn't speak the same language. I think it was obvious I wasn't comfortable. So I can't say that he didn't know what he was doing. It was clear that he wasn't going to let me go until I kissed him. So I did what I first thought of. I stopped moving my head and somehow managed to gather enough courage to look him right in the eye. I saw him lean in again for my lips, and I pretended I was going to let him kiss me, and then, literally at the last second, I turned my head to the side to try and make him kiss my cheek instead. It sort of worked. I wasn't fast enough, for I still felt his lips peck the corner of my mouth. I felt disgusted, but at least it wasn't as he wanted it. Just as I hoped. As soon as he planted one on me, he broke the hug, holding me at arm's length and gave me this huge grin. He then patted my shoulder before finally letting me go and walking away. I stood there shaken, not really knowing what to do. Eventually I went back to work, but my co-workers asked me if I was okay since, apparently, I was pale as paper and my arms couldn't stop shaking. I just shrugged them off. I never reported this to my boss, nor did I say anything to my co-workers, partly because I thought the chef was family and they'd fire me rather than him, but mostly because I was stupid. However, I did avoid him at all costs for the remaining time I worked there, and never treated him the same. I also never went alone to the kitchen, nor entered the hallway, until it was literally a minute for me to clock in. Eventually I quit and never returned to that place. I heard he also quit not long after I had. Well, whatever the case, good riddance. 2. I am 18, male. I have an extremely large Alsatian dog which needs walked 3 times a day for about an hour. I am a large guy, and the day of this encounter, I was wearing an extremely large padded and black leather jacket with black skinny jeans. This is important later on. My house is close to a large state park. I walk my dog here daily. I always take a secluded path off the main path. There are 2 of these paths which run parallel to each other. They are about 20 meters apart. One path runs adjacent to the river, over of which there is an abandoned house and manor. The other path is higher up and overlooks the path next to the river. This is also important. So now, to get to my story. I left my house and started walking my dog at around 1 p.m. I take the main path until reaching the secluded paths. I take the path closest to the river so that my dog can go swimming. As I get around 1 mile in, I hear people talking from up and around the corner of the path. I put my dog on a tight leash as I slowly walk up the hill, with a 10-meter drop down to the river and around the corner. The hill's gradient begins to decline. As I look for the source of the noise, I see a lady in a pink blazer sitting on the ground talking to another man on the ground. As I approached, I realized something was wrong here. The woman was smiling. The man was sitting halfway down the hill, almost in the river, with his bike upturned next to him. It appeared to be some sort of accident. The path was not slippery, but it was steep and narrow. The drop at this section of the path was around 8 meters of sharp rock into a white river. The pink lady had the following conversation with the man.
"Someone is coming."
The man grumbles something.
"How did you know that?"
My dog started crying and walked just off the path to go investigate. I pull him back. I ask if everything is okay. She gives no response. She just smiles and looks towards the older, balding man. We stare at each other for a second, and I get a better look at her before continuing to walk down the path. Let me describe this lady in even more detail. She wore a bright pink blazer with camouflage trousers and large hunting boots. She had to be at least in her late 40s. If any one of you has seen the Harry Potter films, just think of Dolores Umbridge, and you'll have a good idea of what I witnessed. After 10 minutes, the path forks back or diverges to continue on. I decide to walk back, not on the same path. I end up back at the main path. I start to walk away back home, but I get a feeling in my gut that I should go back. After all, that man could have been injured, and were just intimidated by my sudden presence or my grotesquely large dog. As I walk back down the path, I see this pink lady stop 2 boys no older than 12, and say something about him being stuck and he needs their help. She would have had to leave the man there. Instead of going to the path where the man was situated, I took the back path which overlooked the path below and the river. As I look down, I am shocked. The man is moving his bike to a steeper part of the path and lies down, as if he was injured. This lady was luring these boys to this man who was not injured, capable of movement, and who had just staged an accident. I tried to phone 101, the non-emergency number in my county, but I had no minutes left. The pink lady is nowhere to be seen. I decide I have to loop back around and walk down the path. It takes me 10 minutes to do so. As I get around there, the lady and man are arguing. The conversation went like this.
Now where are we meant to go?
If you weren't such a spooky bitch, those boys would have come in.
You were the one who said we couldn't tackle the big guy.
At this moment, I go into panic. I make my presence clear and approach them quickly. I have to get past them as quickly as I can. I pull my dog closer to me, and as I am passing them on the narrow path, less than a meter in length, the man gives me the dirtiest look while the lady gives me the toothiest yellow smile I've ever seen. I'm not afraid to admit it. I was scared. I run as quick as I can out of the woods. When I do get out, I reach a member of the local government, while walking past the parking lot, and tell him what I witnessed and the conversation. Fortunately, the boys the lady was talking to had already reported suspicious activity. He tells me the children had told him that the lady was claiming her husband had fallen off the path and needed some help. The boys didn't fall for it. He had called the police as soon as the boys had told him. I soon left, and will not be returning to that part of the woods for a long time. So, creepy pink lady, if you ever see this, I hope you get caught for whatever sick thing you were plotting. Three. When I was 16, I worked at a grocery store as a stalker. The store closed at midnight, and we would often work later than that, as it was easier to stalk the aisles without all the damn people in the way. It was around Christmas time, and unfortunately, I had to work on Christmas Eve. Stupid, I know. We typically had Christmas Day down at my grandfather's place in rural East Texas, about an hour and a half away. And since I had to work, I told my parents to go ahead without me, and I'll head their way once I got off work. My grandparents lived in a gated community called Steamboat Shores, and it was lined with mobile homes which were mostly filled with old people waiting to die. I had gotten my driver's license only about a month and a half ago, and this would be my first somewhat long drive late at night. I felt confident in the drive. I mean, it was only an hour and a half. I had been along these roads many times as a passenger, so whatever, no biggie. My mom told me to call once I had gotten off. They cut us loose around midnight. Hey Mom, they just let us go, so I'll be getting in around 1:30 to 1:45, depending on whether I stop to get something to eat. Alright honey, I'll wait up for you. See you in a little bit. Love you. Love you too. The first 45 minutes-ish part of the drive is a fairly monotonous affair through a series of small podunk Texas towns that no one knows the name of. It was a cold, windy night, by Texan standards at least, and as I cruised through the empty streets, The wind howled against my truck, while I watched each town's lone stoplight sway back and forth in the wind. These little towns are creepier than I remember at night, I thought. I felt like a lost pack animal looking for its herd while I drove through each town. The last 45 minutes gets increasingly dark and rural. There's really not much out there, minus cows grazing in fields and the occasionally ramshackle house. This was before smartphones were ubiquitous, so I had the directions written down on a piece of paper. Although since I had been along this road many times before, I generally knew the landmarks for where I should turn. When I was roughly 7 to 8 minutes away, I would take a left at a local grocery store called Brookshire's, and then another left after about 5 miles at the Lake Fork Bank, and then boom, I would be at the front gate of the community. The tricky thing is that it's very easy to lose track of time along these roads, since everything looks the same. And it was already late and my mind was wandering. I feel like I should be getting close to the Brookshires, no? I didn't pass it already, did I? I haven't been on this road that long. Well, maybe I have. Maybe I'll go another 10 minutes and wait if I see it. If not, I'll drive until the next intersection and see what the crossroads are and call Mom and ask if I missed it. As I pull out my phone, I notice in the top left part of the screen, 0 bars. Damn it. I guess I'll just pull up to the next house I see and ask them. It's so late though, but I guess it's better than nothing. Mom will be worrying soon too. After what seemed like an hour but was probably closer to 10 minutes, I see a poorly maintained house approaching on my left side. I start easing off the gas to pull into the driveway. Not really the biggest fan of this whole situation right now, but I'm sure it's fine, so whatever. Wait, what? Is that a police car next to the house? Sweet, I'll just ask him. Not really sure why he's just sitting next to this random house. But what does it matter? I swerve back onto the road and pull up next to the police car that's parked about 30 feet from the house. Hi, officer. Yeah, I was curious if I was close to Brookshire's. I'm a little lost, and I was supposed to take a turn at it. Brookshire's? Yeah, it's actually about 7 miles back the other way. It'll be on your right-hand side. You shouldn't miss it. Damn it. Alright, thanks for the help, officer. Wait, hold on a second, son. I saw you swerve a little before you pulled in here. Have you been drinking tonight? What? No, not at all. I just got off work and I'm heading to my grandparents for Christmas. Alright, son. Well, these parts are known for young idiots driving around drunker than 3 sheets to the wind, especially around the holidays. So I'd prefer to go ahead and run your driver's license and check your vehicle registration. No, that's fine. I understand that. I get out of my truck and hand him my information. He quickly types in my driver's license number. Alright, you're good to go. Sorry about that. It's better on my part to be safe rather than sorry. You understand, kid? Yes, sir. Thanks for the help. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. I pull out of the house's front yard and head back in the direction I came. When I'm maybe 250 to 300 feet away from the house, I look in my rearview mirror and see a pair of headlights pull out of the driveway towards me. It isn't the police car. Maybe they had somewhere to go as well. Probably nothing. In less than a minute, the headlights are right behind me. Maybe I'm driving too slow and they want to pass. I drift my truck slightly to the right, but they don't pass. That's weird. Boom! They blast their high beams and flood my truck with light. What the fuck? This is getting super fucking weird. After about 2 minutes of this, they turn their headlights completely off. The vehicle behind me appears to vanish into the night. I'm so fucked. After 3 to 4 minutes of this, they return their headlights back to normal, steadily riding my bumper. What the fuck do I do? I still don't have a phone signal. Fuck. Why is this vehicle following me? I eventually see the bright, neon red Brookshire sign, shining like a goddamn SOS beacon. Alright, once I get closer to the store, I'm going to fishtail around and turn and put the pedal to the fucking floor, all the way to the front gate of my parents. Wait for it. Wait for it. Vroom! I fishtail around the turn so hard, cascading the vehicle behind me with rocks as I took off as fast as I could. They kept up with me the whole fucking time. Alright, there's the bank, almost there. Still right behind me. Turn left, cross the bridge, there's the gate. I mash on the gate opener button on my truck visor, and it starts opening as I'm about to pull up. Pull in, pull, get away from this psycho. Fuck yes, made it. I watch the gate slowly close behind me as the vehicle pulls up. It was so satisfying hearing the sound of the gate locking. Get fucked, you piece of shit. Now this is where I was truly an idiot. I know for a fact that I would be the first to die if I was in a horror movie. Because I was just too curious. I couldn't help myself. Who the fuck is in that Jeep? Why did they follow me like that? What are they going to do now? Shoot me in the middle of all these mobile homes? In the middle of the street? Doubtful. I toss my truck and park, get out, and walk towards the closed gate. As I do, the window of the Jeep starts rolling down, and I catch a glimpse of pure white hair. What the hell? It's two grandmas in a Jeep, with a shotgun in between them. Hey there, Sonny. We don't mean to scare you. What the fuck is y'all's problem? Could have caused a fucking accident. No, we don't mean to do that. We just thought you might have been a snitch. We want to see who you was. Snitch? Yeah. One of our in-laws just got out the clink. We thought you might have been after him. So apparently one of these old lady's relatives had just gotten out of prison. They said this person had gotten a better deal by ratting out some people, but they didn't say what the crime was, nor did I press the conversation. That's why there was a police car next to their house. I asked them why they turned their fucking headlights off. Well, they had night vision goggles, and were trying to see if I was a man or a woman. What the fuck? I eventually made it to my grandfather's place, my mother still awake. Why are you so late? What took so long? I was being hunted by grandmas, Mom. But they can't catch the bearded millennial. Needless to say, she was not a fan of the story, and she was particularly upset that I approached the car after I was safe inside the gate. Sorry, Mom. I'm just too damn curious. Hey everyone, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 3 True Scary Stories, episode 229. Thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Now, story number 3 there had me thinking of the place I used to work in. They always liked you to work Christmas Eve as well. It was generally busy, at least, well, it used to be really, really busy, but things tapered off a bit over the years. Partly due to the fact that maybe people just don't celebrate New Year as much as they used to, or perhaps there were other reasons. I do remember one year, though, the cheeky buggers actually, they had me scheduled for both Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, which you were meant to get one of them off, and they didn't even ask me, they just put it up. Is that alright? What am I going to say at that point? No? Go fuck yourself? Well, yeah, sure, that's probably what I should have said to them. But they kind of took the attitude of, well, you're single, you don't have kids, you can be at our beck and call. Ah, well, okay. Anyway, moving on. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.